Hey everybody, welcome into the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. It is the middle of the week. It's time for the practice report brought to you by Byers Auto. Birmingham is back. That's Spencer Holbrook and Tim May. I am Austin Ward. Ohio State getting ready for an absolute thriller on Saturday night against Akron. Spencer is, I think he's trending towards making that a closer prediction than the experts think. We'll have to see and stay tuned for bold predictions for that. But this, again, is the practice report brought to you by Byers Auto. The big news out of Ohio State today, senior linebacker Dallas Gant has entered the transfer portal, is leaving, trying to retain 2 years of eligibility to go play elsewhere. He's seen his role kind of dwindle in the last couple weeks. Week 1 had that costly penalty. He's still 7th on Ohio State in tackles with 10, but the snap count had started to shrink, and he's made a decision even before game number 4, Berm, to move on. I don't think that this is one that Ohio State is all that thrilled with when you look at the depth on the team and the time that he'd spent patiently waiting to try and contribute, and veteran leadership in the unit that he's on. Obviously players get to make their own decisions, and you have to respect that. But this one, I think, came as a little bit of a surprise to Ohio State.
Yeah, it can be a surprise, but also expected at the same time. I think they were surprised by the timing of it, but you figure at some point with an additional year gained back from the COVID year that was a possibility for Dallas Gant, especially as Cody Simon and some of these younger guys keep rising up that depth chart. I live by this philosophy is if something's going to happen eventually, it may as well happen immediately. And if for Dallas Gant, it means getting himself into a new situation, finding out where he's going to fit in, what coaching staff he wants to play for, start learning a new defense ASAP, because this is about a kid who needs to be able to contribute in a new program starting January 15th. So, I guess I understand it from that perspective. It definitely is a blow to Ohio State's depth at linebacker, which has already been one of the biggest questions of the year. Now you got to see if Paulier Neoteote or somebody else can fill that role. And when he's had his opportunities, Paulier's done a pretty good job in that limited role, and I think we'll just see that start to grow.
So your philosophy is rip the Band-Aid off.
That's right.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Austin.
Just go.
Dallas,
talk about the defense.
Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
I'll talk about it.
Rip the Band-Aid, Tim.
It's kind of hard to figure out what the depth situation is at linebacker right now, in my opinion. And you lose a guy who might be in the running, might not, might get his act back together, et cetera, and you've invested a lot of time in bringing him along, it's got to hurt you in some respect. I am very interested to see Paulier Neoteote. Did I say that right?
I think you got
Close
it.
enough.
I'm interested to see him get more and more time. I think from what I've watched, I think he has the potential to be pretty good. Cody Simon, I think, could be one of their I think he blitzes with gusto. We'd like to see him figure out the little slip moves to blitz with gusto and get there, et cetera. And then Tommy Eichenberg, obviously he's big in their plans, But as you pointed out, a couple of those guys look like they're already ailing a little bit. So anytime you lose depth, it's got to hurt you, especially in the middle of the year. It's just, we saw the Utah quarterback started the first 3 games, got replaced late in the game the other night. Now he's transferred. There are some real snap judgments going on out there by some people, but they're doing it, and the transfer portal is changing things as much as anything else in college football right now. But we'll get to what I think about the rest of the defense in a minute. Go ahead there, Spence.
I think when I look at this and the way that it's shaken out the first 3 games, we've seen the rise of the bullet position. Ronnie Hickman is playing that pretty well. Double-digit tackles in the first 2 games, led the team with 9 against Tulsa. He's the kind of guy that can kind of be the athlete that they need on the field, but also kind of play a linebacker role. We knew that they were only going to play 2 linebackers at a time in this defense with the bullet position on the field. And so I came up with a saying that's really
you got a
weird.
saying too?
I love it.
What is happening?
He's almost like a casualty of the bullet
We're
position.
so creative.
Because
no.
but I didn't mean to say it
Do you
like
blame
that.
the bullet,
And
or
then
do you
I-
blame the person shooting it?
No, but I
That's the big
didn't
question.
mean to make it up, and then I said it, and I was like, oh, that kind of sounds weird. But
boy.
that's what it is. Like, if you can only put 2 guys on the field at a time, and you've got the young guys who are going to play eventually, they're obviously going to play immediately. And so these older guys, like
That
a
sounds
Dallas
like
Gant,
another saying, but go ahead.
like a Dallas Gant, is almost just kind of figured his way out of the lineup. And when you have those athletic guys that can play linebacker, that can play safety, I think it's more versatile to have those guys on the field anyways, but it still sucks for this team to lose a guy like Dallas Gant.
Well, and here's the other part of that situation, and the factor that if Ohio State is going to play more of these 2 high safety looks, then they're going to need a Band-Aid to cover this bullet hole. And
I like what you did there.
Nice.
Wow.
Well done.
I think, at some point, I don't know how this is going to work out. So we've asked And the question I asked last week to Ryan Day was, do you have to figure out guys and stop the mass personnel substitutions and settle on a guy? And he basically said if other people were earning playing time, they wouldn't be rotating. And I still don't know that they have that figured out. Now, Dallas Gant was not part of that plan on Saturday.
Yeah.
We saw and we talked about Craig Young taking on a very versatile role, and I wouldn't call it a true linebacker. He was playing on the defensive line and in the secondary.
They're doing something with him, though.
There's something going on.
Yeah.
We saw after practice tonight, Court Williams out for a very long time practicing. They need him to be part of this solution. He's not a linebacker. A lot of the pieces fit around that group. Taraja Mitchell is going to be healthy at some point. He'll be out there. Tommy Eichenberg is clearly dealing with some of the early growing pains that go with. He's only played 3 games. I know people want to be very critical of him right now. He needs patience the same way that Pete Warner needed patience and Baron Browning needed patience and Raekwon McMillan needed time to become what he became. I'm not saying that Tommy Eichenberg is going to play like any of those guys, but it's too early to know for sure.
Yeah.
So that's a solution. We talked about Paula, EA. They have guys, Kayvon Pope.
Kayvon Pope is actually, if we were placing bets heading into the season about which veteran linebacker wouldn't be here by week 4, everyone would have said Kayvon Pope, but every time he gets out on the field, he makes plays. And so all of a sudden you start to go, well, maybe we should play this guy more. And Ohio State opened the season with Minnesota, the real run-heavy offense of the Gophers. Where does that fit in with a guy like Dallas Gant the rest of the season? You don't really see that again until November when you play Michigan State in Michigan. And by that time, if somebody else hasn't developed and isn't ready to take over that role, then the doesn't matter anyway, right? It's kind of a moo point. So I just feel like it's a situation.
Stop saying moo.
This is a situation where Dallas Gant's role was going to shrink just by who they're playing over the next 6 weeks. And so you see an opportunity for Kayvon Pope, for Cody Simon. Cody Simon is a superstar in the making, and I don't want to be hyperbolic about it. That kid has every part that they're looking for in the defense, and he's played very well.
He's pretty hyperolic, though, but go ahead.
I believe in it.
But here's the thing about Kayvon Pope.
Is
Kayvon Pope one of these guys that just doesn't practice well? Because we've seen him. I've seen him throughout my career covering sports, and but I think he.
And on the flip side, are there other guys who are practicing well that just don't play
exactly,
well?
But every game he's gotten into, he's made a play of some sort. And clearly, when we were talking to Ryan Day earlier this week, guys are stepping up and making some plays, not the least of whom is Ronnie Hickman. I'm writing about just sort of that rise of some guys for later this week at LettermenRow.com with, but Ronnie Hickman's one of those guys like you talked about. He's shown he can do a couple of things pretty well. You got to get him involved, Craig Young, like you touched on a minute ago, they clearly have got the thinking caps on with this guy because we saw it right in front of us last week and stuff and some things they were trying. So I'm very curious where this is going. It's that old line too, speaking of sayings, lead, follow, or get the hell out of the way. Sometimes players don't see themselves in whatever it is that's coming from the new solution, the new chemical equation that's going to fix things right. Maybe Dallas Gant, I think, evidently saw that. And so it's better sometimes for people to move on. But I see guys rising. I see guys rising right in front of our eyes.
What you do see.
Was that a saying?
And what maybe Dallas Gant did see, and what a lot of these guys, it appears, are becoming accustomed to, that youth movement is alive and well, and it's happening, right in front of us.
Yeah,
the guys that are playing and stepping up and making plays and starting to take control and owning their roles are Cody Simon, it's Denzel Burke, it's Ronnie Hickman, who isn't really a young guy, but he missed his entire first year in the program, and he's still relatively new when it comes to being on the field. Like, all of the guys that we're talking about right now as playmakers in this defense are all guys who are playing in their first or second year with real on-the-field reps, other than Taraja Mitchell, who just missed a game, so we don't really know exactly, where that's going to fall. I'm assuming he's going to be a huge part of the turnaround of this defense and be one of those senior leaders who can take the reins of that alongside all these young guys. But that, we started to hint at it right after the Tulsa game. That youth movement is real, and it's happening, and it's coming fast.
And Tyleik Williams, I didn't mean to jump in there, but Tyleik Williams, I've got my eye on that guy because I went back and watched video of he's making moves on guards and centers and stuff and getting in the mix. That's what they need, that little spark up front that's going to get them going. Should be coming from Tyreek Smith and perhaps Zach Harrison if he can play again this week, but also JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer. We expect to see more of them because you got to get, to have a chemical reaction, you got to get a little spark, and I think it's got to come from up front.
A lot of chemical talk.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, man. If a dog will bite you, he'll bite you as a pup. I want to throw that in there.
It's Tim's chemical romance.
I think that
Chemistry.
Inside this building, I think there's been a little bit. The panic button is not being pushed quite the way that it was last week because of the things that they saw from the younger players. And if they're going to build this defense into what they become, I think they've shifted. They took what happened against Oregon, and if the veteran guys are not going to play to the standard that's expected of them, they've given the opportunity to these other guys, and it wasn't just because of who they played. And they accepted that there were going to be
Lumps.
some lumps, and they were going to take them if they came against Tulsa and Akron or Rutgers or Maryland, with the design that by the middle of October and later that this could be a really good defense. And I know for a fact that there's more confidence as we stand in here today than there was at this time a week ago.
Yeah, because
Yes.
if you're going to take lumps, you want to take them with the freshmen, right? Because you don't want to take them with seniors. You don't want to put guys out there who have been here for 4 years and aren't buying into everything that's being asked of them. The freshmen are, and therefore, if you're going to take a hit, you'd rather it be a guy that's fresh and new and willing to bounce back from it a little bit more aggressively, or maybe with a little more, in Tim's phrase, gusto, And speaking of gusto, we're like in a nor'easter
Why
here.
did you pick this spot?
I really
It's
wanted,
very cold.
I wanted
Wind
folks
tunnel.
to know what it's like in the atmosphere,
Yeah.
in the climate.
Well,
Buddy, with global warming going on, I relish this moment.
is
I
great.
mean, it's been really hot.
I wish we were out playing golf in this weather
Yes,
right
me
now.
too.
Denzel Burke, you brought him up, Spencer. I was standing there listening to him and trying to think, well, first of all, I wish that I could listen to him talk every single week. I've loved watching him play. I've been very surprised by what he's given in the first 3 games of his career. I really didn't see that coming. Berm, Tim, Spencer, you've got a little bit less, so I know who you would compare him to, and I'm going to steal a part of it. He's a mix between Denzel Ward as a freshman with some Bradley Roby confidence, and I'm not going to go quite to the Dame Arnett level quite yet. But
The
I
swagger's
can-
there.
I can see it coming, and
He's got an edge, man.
I do like. You guys know that Dame was one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah.
So that's why I won't put him quite there yet. But boy, it's coming along quite nicely for Ohio State.
The comparisons that I got from the people in this building when Denzel Burke committed to Ohio State was Denzel Ward.
Yeah.
I was a little reluctant to buy it because with Denzel Ward, I was just always blown away by the speed, and I don't know if it's just with Denzel Burke, he plays so under control and maybe you don't feel the speed or see it as blatantly, but
It's there.
clearly the kid is really good. I mean, I would go back to, I'm not going to certainly evoke the name like Antoine Winfield or anyone like that, but he reminds me of one of those late 90s corners that was just kind of, he was not afraid of anybody, and I like that style. Bradley Roby's another good comparison to me.
But I want to tell you, the way he moves his feet, the way it seems like he's hardly touching the ground. He's one of those kind of great sprinter athletes. It reminds me a little bit of Chris Gamble also, because Chris Gamble looked like he was almost like a marionette, and his feet were hardly ever touching the ground. I mean, really, the way he ran, it's remarkable. He is a mix of a lot of guys.
Chris Gamble played cornerback and wide receiver at Ohio State in 2002 to 2004.
Yeah. He played almost every play against Miami. But I digress. Bottom line is,
So that's a good comparison.
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Oh yeah.
interesting.
Oh, absolutely.
Former first-round pick.
All he needed was
Spencer's the one.
all he needed was a bottle of water. But the bottom line is, I
You
really
were living
like.
in Wyoming or something.
Are y'all bringing up Wyoming and Ohio U corners? What are y'all
Go
doing?
outside.
You're interrupting.
Feels like
me.
Wyoming.
My point is, I really like this kid. I think he's only young man. I think he's only going to get better. But the tools are there. It's crazy. The Denzel Ward, I think, analogy is probably as close as for all you young whippersnappers to remember far back. Wow, the future is so bright for this young guy.
The thing about him that strikes me, it's really crazy that if he was wearing purple and gold and playing in Baton Rouge, he'd be a first-team All-American candidate right now, because that's what they did with Derek Stingley through 3 games. And when you watch Derek Stingley's freshman year and you watch Denzel Burke's first 3 games, they look very, very similar. And I know we always like to make the Ohio State comparisons, but like the way that Stingley moved as a freshman, the way he had the confidence, he carried himself, he was a leader of the defense right when he got on campus, like that's what you're seeing out of Denzel Burke, and I think that should excite everybody just as much as any Ohio State comparison, because that guy's going to be a top 5 pick this year. And Denzel Burke should be getting the attention as a freshman that Stingley got when he was a freshman.
Sure, the buzz is different because Denzel Burke played wide receiver in high school and
Right.
wasn't a 5-star, number 1 ranked player in the country like Stingley was. But clearly, what we're seeing here at Ohio State is what the best defenses in the last decade have relied upon, and that's now cornerback play that you can count on. And with Cam Brown getting healthy, and now Denzel Burke, and with Seven Banks, whatever was going on with Seven Banks, I mean, it looked to me like he sort of righted things a little bit Saturday when he got onto the field for the first time this year. And if you can get a good rotation out of those 3 guys and then mix in J.K. Johnson and Jordan Hancock as the season goes along, the secondary has not been bad for Ohio State. To me, the question mark all year has really been the defensive line and the way that they've been ineffective in getting to the quarterback. And they put a lot of pressure on that secondary, but those young guys in the secondary have stepped up. Ohio State is 129th out of 130 teams in the country on defense, as far, or not just defense, on how many starts per position of anyone in the country. They are 120. So this is it's so young, and we put so much pressure on them. And is it fair?
Here's my big question: is it fair to judge anything based on what we're going to see Saturday?
No.
Okay.
That's why I want to talk about Akron.
Yeah. I know, but I'm just saying, I think we're going to see pressure on the
Won't have a
quarterbacks.
very good rapid reaction if we don't make any assessments.
Yeah, but I think we are going to see pressure on the quarterback. I'm not giving away my rapid react or my prognostication or whatever
it's called a bold prediction.
My obscene prediction. But what are we going to learn from this game? Do you think, from everything we just talked about from a defensive standpoint? This team got beat 60-10, I think, by Auburn. I think 60-0, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it's not going to be the amount of yards they give up unless it's 500. It's not going to be the amount of points.
Are you going to go out and grab them by the neck?
Unless it's 24, something like that. It's going to be, is Court Williams healthy enough to play, and do they play him?
Yeah.
Does Seven Banks get in that mix earlier? Those are the last 2 people that were on the field tonight. I would take that as a pretty good sign for Seven Banks, based on what had been happening previously. What are they going to do with the linebacker rotation in the early part of the game? Who was able to make the most of those opportunities? Does Tyleek Williams and Jack Sawyer, JT Tuimoloau, are they on the field first? The things that we learn are probably going to be limited to the first few drives, but there are also a lot of young people on both sides of the football that need reps against anybody that is not wearing a scarlet and gray jersey.
Do you remember last week when we were all fired up about watching pregame warm-ups and see if they're going to go out there in the 2-deep safety, and they didn't throughout the pregame warm-ups? And then what do they go out into the first snap? They're in the 2-deep safety, and you're going, okay, they are thinking, they are changing things. I'm sorry, Spence.
There are a couple other things that you can watch for. Like, okay, if Akron breaks a 15-yard run, is Bryson Shaw taking the correct angles? Is he in the right place when he's supposed to be in pass coverage? Are the linebackers getting enough depth, but they're not giving up the middle ground? Is a defensive lineman not covering a running back like he was last week? Like, there are little things.
Oh, sure.
And you're going to have to nitpick when it comes to the time when you play Akron. We had to nitpick a couple years ago when they played Miami, Ohio, and even when they played Maryland, because these massive blowouts, you've got to find little things. But there are a few different things that I'll be watching from this defense, and they're all in that back 7. But at the same time, I feel much more confident in the back 7 than I did a week and a half ago.
I mean, I think you can just simply nitpick whether or not Ohio State goes out and destroys Akron like they're supposed to. This is a situation where if a good Ohio State team will go win this game by 70 points and do that pretty much without trying. And so I think I just want to see a team that goes out there confident and aggressive. And that's pretty much what you always want to see against these lower caliber teams. I want to see the Buckeyes go out and assert their dominance from snap 1 to snap 85 and get out of there healthy and turning towards Rutgers.
Like I've always said, one of my old sayings is play like you're supposed to play. Play to your level, who you are. Show who you are no matter who you're playing. And that's exactly what they need to show on Saturday, that they have made progress on the defensive side, that they can take a hold of a team that they are 7.5 touchdown favorites over and play that way.
Yeah, attitude is going to be visible, and pride is visible. And that's all I want to see in the Horseshoe on Saturday is a team that goes out there and plays with pride and says, hey, we're done feeling sorry for ourselves. We're done feeling like we have excuses because we're young, and you go out there and you blow their doors off.
Very last thing. When I keep referencing this because I think it's pretty comparable. When Ohio State hosted Miami 2 years ago, Chase Young had a strip sack in the first half. He had 2 more sacks in the first half. I think he had 4 tackles for loss. That guy did not care who he was playing. He didn't care to play down to the level. He didn't care to go through the motions. That's what I'm hoping to see from this Ohio State defensive line on Saturday. It doesn't matter who you're going against. As long as the helmet doesn't have the Buckeye leaves on it, destroy somebody and get to the quarterback. Because that's what, if you want to be at that first round level, like all these guys on the defensive line want to be, that's the standard. And it doesn't matter if you make the play or not, but are you going as hard as you can, because that's the way Chase Young played. And so that's all these defensive linemen right now want to be Chase Young. Now's your chance to start.
Don't do it, Tim.
Now's your chance to start doing that.
They need to play from A to Z. Get it?
Hey, if you
the Akron Zips.
if you like
Ugh.
your puns
We got you covered.
mixed in with your
That's a
Ohio
good
State
saying.
coverage, then you can subscribe to Lettermen Row and part of the On3 network for $10 for an entire year. And I mean, this kind of coverage
That's worth it.
doesn't come cheap,
No.
except with this deal.
Yeah.
3 cents a day,
That's a hell of a
as
deal.
Berm says. So you can sign up for that right now. We appreciate you also watching right here on the Lettermen Row YouTube channel. This is the Practice Report, which is brought to you by Byers Auto. We have some fun, don't we? That's Spencer Holbrook, Tim May, Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward. Saturday night in prime time. Full coverage of Ohio State Akron coming at lettermenrow.com. We'll see you there.